Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Your success in life, whether it's making money, building relationships, advancing your career, or living the life you want, depends less on what you know and almost entirely on how well you communicate with people. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you can't talk to anyone, you'll watch less talented people with better social skills get the job, make the sale, win the relationship, and build the life you wanted. Leil Lowndes' How to Talk to Anyone reveals 992 little tricks that create big success in relationships. These aren't manipulative tactics or fake techniques. They're insights into human psychology and practical communication strategies that successful people use every single day. The difference between someone who walks into any room and instantly connects with anyone and someone who struggles awkwardly through small talk. These 92 tricks. Here's what most people don't understand. Communication skills aren't something you're born with. You weren't born knowing how to ride a bike or drive a car. You learned. The same is true for conversation. Some people learn these skills naturally through trial and error or observation. Most people never learned at all, so they stumble through life, wondering why opportunities and relationships seem to come so easily to others. This book is different from every other communication book you've seen. Lowndes doesn't give you vague advice like, be confident, or just be yourself. She gives you 92 specific concrete techniques you can use today. What to do with your eyes when someone speaks. How to position your body to appear confident. What words create instant connection. How to make unforgettable first impressions. How to handle any social situation without awkwardness. Over the next 30 minutes, we're breaking down the most powerful techniques from all 92 tricks into 8 essential categories that will transform how you connect with people. These aren't just for networking or business. They work everywhere. Dates, parties, job interviews, sales meetings, family gatherings, anywhere humans interact. Master these techniques, and you'll never struggle with conversation again. Ready to learn how people who seem naturally charismatic actually operate? Let's go. Chapter 1. First Impressions, the Flooding Smile and Body Language. Lowndes opens with the brutal reality. People judge you in the first 2 seconds of meeting you, and changing that first impression is nearly impossible. Before you speak a word, your body language, facial expression, and energy communicate volumes. Most people unknowingly sabotage themselves immediately with closed body language, weak smiles, and distracted energy. Her first major technique is the flooding smile. Don't smile immediately when meeting someone. Instead, look at their face for 1 second. Let your expression show you're genuinely taking them in. Then, let a big, warm smile flood over your face. This delayed smile communicates, I'm not smiling automatically at everyone. I'm smiling because of you. It takes 1 extra second but creates a completely different impression than an instant automatic smile. The psychology is simple. Instant smiles feel cheap and automatic, like you smile at everyone the same way. The flooding smile feels personal and genuine, like you're specifically delighted to meet this particular person. This tiny delay makes you seem more sincere, more present, and more genuinely interested. Lowndes then addresses body language with the big baby pivot. When you meet someone, don't just turn your head toward them. Turn your entire body. Face them fully with your shoulders, torso, and feet pointing directly at them. This full-body attention communicates that they have your complete focus. Most people turn their head but keep their body angled away, subconsciously signaling they're ready to leave or not fully engaged. The sticky eyes technique transforms eye contact. When someone finishes speaking, don't immediately break eye contact. Hold it for one extra beat before looking away. This extra second of eye contact makes people feel heard and important. Most people break eye contact the instant someone stops talking, which feels dismissive, even if unintentional. She introduces the concept of visual accessibility, keeping your face and body open and approachable. Crossed arms signal defensiveness. Hands in pockets signal discomfort. Looking at your phone signals disinterest. The most approachable people keep arms at their sides or slightly open, maintain an open posture, and keep their attention fully present rather than divided. Lowndes shares the hello old friend technique for approaching anyone. Instead of approaching with the nervous energy of meeting a stranger, imagine you're greeting an old friend you're genuinely happy to see. Your body language, smile, and energy will naturally shift to warm and open. This mental trick transforms your nonverbal communication in ways conscious effort can't achieve. The hang by your teeth technique addresses posture. Imagine a string attached to your top teeth, pulling your face up and slightly forward. This naturally lifts your chin, straightens your spine, and creates confident posture without requiring conscious effort. Most people slump, look down, or hunch, all signals of low confidence. This simple visualization fixes posture automatically. She emphasizes that these body language techniques feel awkward initially because they're not your current habits. Flooding smiles, full body pivots, sticky eyes, and conscious posture all require practice. But everyone who seems naturally charismatic uses these exact techniques. They just learned them earlier and practiced them longer. You're not trying to be fake. You're learning the nonverbal language successful people already speak. Lowndes shares research showing that nonverbal communication comprises 55% of first impressions, tone of voice is 38%, and actual words are only 7%. This means you could say exactly the right words, but if your body language is closed, your smile is automatic, and your energy is low, you've lost before you started speaking. Master nonverbal communication first, and actual conversation becomes far easier. The action step: practice one technique this week until it becomes natural. Choose either flooding smiles, big baby pivots, sticky eyes, or hang by your teeth posture. Use it constantly for 7 days with everyone, baristas, colleagues, strangers. It will feel forced initially. By day 7, it will feel natural. Then add the next technique. Within months, you'll have transformed your nonverbal communication completely. Chapter 2. Breaking the ice. Starting conversations without awkwardness. The second major skill is starting conversations smoothly, without the painful awkwardness most people experience. Lowndes destroys the myth that you need clever opening lines. You don't. You need simple techniques that make approaching anyone feel natural. Her rubberneck the room technique eliminates the anxiety of entering parties or networking events. Before entering, pause at the doorway and scan the room slowly as if you're looking for someone. This serves multiple purposes. You appear confident and connected, like you know people here. You give yourself time to compose yourself, and you can actually identify who to approach. The Be a Copy class technique makes starting conversations effortless. Observe the energy level and speaking style of the person or group you want to join, then match it. If they're animated and loud, approach with energy. If they're calm and quiet, approach gently. Mismatched energy creates jarring interactions. Matched energy creates instant comfort. For actually starting conversations, Lowndes recommends the wooz-at technique. At events, ask the host or organizer about interesting people. Who's that person by the window? This serves two purposes. You get information about people before approaching, reducing anxiety. And you can approach with, "Sarah mentioned you work in architecture. That's fascinating." This warm introduction is far easier than cold approaches. The eavesdrop-in technique handles approaching groups already in conversation. Listen briefly to their conversation, then make a relevant comment or ask a relevant question that shows you were listening and are interested. "Excuse me, I couldn't help overhearing. Did you say you just returned from Costa Rica? I'm planning a trip there. Any recommendations?" You're not interrupting. You're adding value to their existing conversation. She introduces, never the naked city. Never ask generic questions like, "So what do you do?" or "Where are you from?" These create boring transactional exchanges. Instead, add personal context. "What brings you to this conference?" Or, "How do you know the host?" Questions with context invite story-based answers instead of one-word responses. Lowndes emphasizes the make a stat technique for small talk. Turn observations into statements rather than questions. Instead of "Nice weather, huh?" Dead-end question. Try, "This is the first sunny day we've had in weeks. I feel like a completely different person." Statements invite agreement, elaboration, or personal stories. They create conversation rather than requiring it. The swiveling spotlight prevents conversational dead ends. When someone answers your question, don't immediately ask another question like you're conducting an interview. Instead, relate their answer to yourself before asking follow-up questions. Teaching high school? That's incredible. My sister teaches and she says it's the hardest job she's ever loved. What made you choose education? You're creating dialogue, not interrogation. She shares the crucial difference between closed and open questions. Closed questions elicit yes-no answers. Do you like your job? Open questions invite elaboration. What's the most interesting part of your job? Every closed question can be rephrased as an open question that creates actual conversation rather than awkward exchanges. The action step. Choose 2 conversation starters to practice this week. Try eavesdrop in at a group conversation and never the naked city with individuals. Notice how adding context and making relevant comments creates natural conversation compared to generic questions. These small adjustments remove the painful awkwardness that makes most people avoid starting conversations entirely. Chapter 3. Making people like you, creating instant connection. The third essential skill is making people instantly like you through specific techniques that create connection and warmth. Lowndes reveals that being liked isn't about being funny or interesting. It's about making others feel good about themselves when they're around you. Her eyeball selling technique is simple but powerful. Whenever someone mentions something they're proud of, a project, accomplishment, possession, or idea, let your eyes light up. Your facial expression should show genuine interest and admiration. Most people maintain neutral expressions, missing opportunities to make others feel valued. Enthusiastic eye expressions make people feel appreciated. The bear the secret technique creates instant intimacy. When appropriate, share a relevant personal story or confession that shows vulnerability. Not trauma dumping, but strategic vulnerability. Honestly, networking events terrify me, but I'm working on it. This honesty makes you relatable and trustworthy, inviting others to open up similarly. Lowndes introduces communicate, inserting the word you frequently in conversation. Instead of people who work in marketing have challenging jobs, say, you marketing professionals have challenging jobs. Personalizing language makes conversations feel direct and engaging rather than theoretical and distant. The kill the quick me too technique prevents you from accidentally stealing someone's thunder. When someone shares an experience, resist immediately saying, me too, I had the same thing happen. This redirects attention to yourself. Instead, ask follow-up questions about their experience first. That's incredible. How did you feel when that happened? Only after fully exploring their story should you share your similar experience. She teaches the grapevine glory technique. When you hear something positive about someone, tell them you heard it. Lisa mentioned you handled that difficult client brilliantly. Third-party compliments are more believable than direct compliments because they show multiple people notice their excellence. This creates enormous goodwill. The carrier pigeon kudos works similarly. When someone says something positive about someone else, make sure the compliment reaches that person. I was talking to James and he said you're the best manager he's ever had. Being the bearer of good news makes people associate you with positive feelings. Lowndes introduces instant replay. When someone tells you something, repeat the last few words or key phrase as a question. So, I'm thinking about moving to Portland. Moving to Portland? This shows you're listening, encourages them to elaborate, and keeps conversation flowing without requiring you to manufacture questions. The parroting technique takes this further. Occasionally repeat someone's exact words back to them. I feel like I'm constantly putting out fires at work. Constantly putting out fires? That sounds exhausting. How do you manage the stress? Hearing their own words reflected back makes people feel deeply understood. She teaches employ empathy enhancers, words that show emotional understanding. That must have been frustrating. I can imagine how exciting that was. No wonder you're proud of that. These phrases demonstrate that you're not just hearing words, you're understanding emotions behind the words. The talking gestures technique makes you appear more engaging. Use hand gestures that complement your words, not wild gestures that distract, but purposeful movements that emphasize points. Research shows people who gesture appropriately are perceived as more competent, warm, and energetic. Lowndes emphasizes that likability isn't about being the most interesting person. It's about being interested in others. The person who asks good questions, listens attentively, responds enthusiastically, and makes others feel valued will always be better liked than someone who dominates conversations with their own stories, regardless of how impressive those stories are. The action step. Practice making one person feel special this week. Use eyeball selling, communicate, and instant replay consistently with one person, a colleague, friend, or a family member. Notice how these small techniques transform their warmth toward you. They feel valued and understood, creating natural liking that requires no charm or humor on your part. Chapter 4. Engaging conversation, avoiding awkward silence. The fourth skill is maintaining engaging conversation without painful silences or running out of things to say. Lowndes reveals that conversational flow isn't about being naturally interesting. It's about having techniques that keep dialogue moving. Her be-a-word detective technique prevents awkward silences. Listen for any unusual word or phrase someone uses, then ask about it. You mentioned you're coordinating the project. What does your coordination involve specifically? Every sentence contains multiple conversation threads. Pulling on any thread keeps conversation flowing. The swivel spotlight technique balances talking and listening. After someone shares, briefly relate it to yourself, then spotlight back to them. That reminds me of when I worked in retail. It was exhausting. What keeps you motivated despite the challenges? You're showing connection without hijacking the conversation. Lowndes teaches the premature we, using we instead of you and I in conversations with new people. We should check out that restaurant sometime, or we'd probably both enjoy that conference. We implies existing friendship and connection, creating immediate familiarity that typically takes much longer to develop. The kill the compliment technique handles compliments gracefully. When someone compliments you, don't deflect or minimize. Oh, this old thing? Instead, accept warmly and redirect to them. Thank you so much. I love your style too. Where do you usually shop? Accepting compliments shows confidence, and redirecting keeps conversation balanced. She introduces exclusive smile. Smile warmly at the person you're speaking with, but let your smile soften when scanning the room or looking at others. This makes your smile for them feel special and exclusive, not automatic. They feel like they're receiving genuine warmth, not generic politeness extended to everyone. The tracking technique maintains conversational thread. Remember details people mention, then reference them later. How did your daughter's recital go? This shows you actually listened and cared enough to remember, creating deep appreciation. Most people forget details immediately, making them seem disinterested. Lowndes teaches the broken record for changing topics. When you want to shift conversation, make a brief acknowledgement of the current topic, then introduce the new one. The weather's been unpredictable lately. Speaking of unpredictable, have you seen how the market's been acting? The transition feels natural rather than abrupt. She shares scramble therapy for handling awkward moments. When conversation hits an awkward point, acknowledge it with humor. Well, that got awkward quickly. Self-aware humor about awkwardness dissipates tension and makes you relatable. Pretending awkwardness doesn't exist makes it worse. The munching or mingling technique addresses eating at networking events. Choose one. Either eat properly and don't try to network, or network actively and barely eat. Trying to do both results in talking with your mouth full, or interrupting eating constantly, both creating bad impressions. Lowndes emphasizes what's in it for them. Always consider what the other person gains from the conversation. If you're talking about your interests but nothing connects to theirs, they're bored. Find intersections. If they love travel and you're discussing work, relate your work to locations. My job lets me work remotely. I'm considering working from Portugal for a month. The action step. Practice. Be a word detective and tracking this week. In every conversation, identify unusual words or phrases to ask about, and remember one personal detail to reference later. These techniques keep conversations flowing naturally without requiring you to be inherently interesting or clever. Chapter 5. Making memorable impressions, standing out positively. The fifth skill is making impressions memorable enough that people actually remember you later. Lowndes reveals that most people are instantly forgettable because they blend into generic pleasantness. Standing out positively requires specific techniques. Her name shower technique embeds your name in their memory. Use their name 3 times in the first minute of meeting. In greeting, "Great to meet you, Jennifer." Mid-conversation, "Jennifer, that's a fascinating point." And when parting, "Jennifer, I enjoyed talking with you." Hearing their name repeatedly creates association between positive feelings and your face. The business card technique. When receiving business cards, don't just pocket them. Read them carefully. Comment on something specific. Managing director. Impressive. How long have you been with the company? This shows respect and genuine interest, making you far more memorable than people who glance in pocket cards automatically. Lowndes teaches the nutshell pitch, having a compelling one-sentence answer to "What do you do?" Most people give boring, generic answers. "I'm in marketing." Instead, I help companies turn strangers into raving fans through strategic storytelling. Interesting, specific descriptions make you memorable. She introduces the ... trick, ending statements with implied continuation that invites questions. "I just returned from volunteering in Guatemala." The pause invites, "Oh, what were you doing there?" Creating curiosity makes people engage deeper, creating memorable interactions rather than surface exchanges. The eyebrow flash technique. When you first see someone, raise your eyebrows briefly in recognition. This universal signal of acknowledgement and pleasure makes people feel recognized and valued. It's such a subtle gesture that people don't consciously notice, but they subconsciously feel warmth towards you. Lowndes shares the exclusive company. When introducing people, add impressive context. Instead of "This is Marcus," say "This is Marcus, who's building a nonprofit serving homeless youth." You're making Marcus feel valued while showing you pay attention to what matters about people you know. The anecdotal you technique makes you memorable through stories. When asked about yourself, don't list facts, tell brief stories. "How did you get into consulting?" "Great question. I was actually a teacher, but one summer I helped my brother restructure his business. That experience showed me I loved organizational problem solving. 3 years later, here I am." Stories stick in memory, facts don't. She teaches the ulterior motive. Always have a reason beyond networking for attending events. Passion for the cause, genuine interest in the topic, wanting to learn something specific. This authentic motivation makes you interesting. People attending purely to network often seem desperate or transactional. The cutting-edge conversation involves sharing fascinating recent information. "I just read that." Or, "Did you see the news about..." Being a source of interesting information makes you valuable. People remember those who teach them things or share fascinating insights. Lowndes emphasizes the memorable exit. Don't just wave goodbye. Make specific references to your conversation. Thanks for the book recommendation. I'm downloading it tonight. Great meeting you. Specific exits cement memories of the interaction, making you stand out from the blur of generic farewells. The action step: develop your nutshell pitch and practice name shower technique this week. Create a one-sentence description of what you do that's interesting and specific. Then use names frequently in conversations. These two techniques alone dramatically increase how many people actually remember you after meetings. Chapter 6. Handling difficult situations. Awkwardness, rejection, and conflict. The sixth skill is handling socially difficult situations without falling apart. Lowndes reveals that confident communicators aren't people who avoid awkwardness. They're people with techniques for handling it gracefully when it inevitably occurs. Her put safety in numbers technique handles anxiety at events where you know nobody. Bring a friend. Having even one familiar person eliminates the terror of complete isolation and gives you a home base for venturing out. Once comfortable, you can separate and meet people independently. The crash and burn technique reframes rejection. If you approach someone and they're cold or dismissive, mentally declare crash and burn to yourself. Then move on immediately without dwelling. Reframing rejection as an amusing game removes its emotional sting. Most people take rejection personally and let it ruin their evening. Confident people move on in seconds. Lowndes teaches the escape hatch. Always have legitimate reasons to exit conversations. I need to catch the host before they leave. I promised myself I'd meet 5 new people tonight. I need to grab food before they clear the buffet. These exits are polite and definitive, preventing you from being trapped in unwanted conversations. She introduces the broken record for handling persistent bores or people who won't let you leave. Repeat your exit reason calmly and consistently. I really do need to go. I understand, but I really must go. I appreciate that, but I need to go. Eventually they'll accept it. Most people give up too easily and get stuck. The lend a helping tongue technique handles others' embarrassment. When someone makes a social mistake, pretend you didn't notice or subtly help them recover. If someone forgets your name, jump in. Hi, I'm Sarah. We met at the conference. This graciousness makes people deeply grateful and eliminates their awkwardness. Lowndes teaches the invisible hand for handling your own mistakes. When you make an error, mispronounce a name, forget something important, or say something awkward, acknowledge it simply and move on. I apologize. I completely mispronounced that. Could you say it for me again? Brief acknowledgement and correction without dwelling shows confidence. She introduces the ego massage for handling difficult people. Everyone has a dominant passion or pride point. Find it and reference it. The difficult colleague who's passionate about their kids will soften if you ask about them. The challenging client who prides themselves on innovation will warm if you acknowledge their cutting-edge approach. Ego massages melt resistance. The preemptive strike handles situations where you might seem ignorant. If you're at an industry event but don't know industry jargon, acknowledge it up front. I'm new to this field. Could you explain what that term means? Admitted ignorance positioned as curiosity is charming. Pretending to understand and being exposed is embarrassing. Lowndes shares the pause button for responding to inflammatory or challenging statements. Instead of reacting immediately, pause for 2-3 seconds, take a breath, then respond calmly. This pause prevents emotional reactions and gives you time to formulate thoughtful responses. Rushing to respond often creates regrettable statements. She emphasizes that difficult situations are normal. Everyone experiences rejection, awkwardness, and conflict. The difference between socially anxious and socially confident people isn't avoiding these situations. It's having techniques to handle them without emotional devastation or prolonged discomfort. The action step: practice the crash and burn reframe next time you face rejection or awkwardness. Mentally declare it, laugh internally, and move on immediately. Notice how reframing prevents dwelling and emotional spiraling. This mental trick alone transforms how you handle social risks. Chapter 7. Phone and Digital Communication: Mastering Remote Connection. The seventh skill addresses phone and digital communication. Lowndes emphasizes that these channels require different techniques than face-to-face interaction because you're missing visual cues and body language. Her talking gestures on phone technique: gesture while speaking on phone calls, even though no one sees you. Physical gestures affect your vocal energy and enthusiasm. People who remain motionless while talking on phones sound flat and disengaged. Those who gesture naturally sound animated and engaging. The quick-out technique handles ending phone calls gracefully. Many people struggle to end calls without seeming rude. Lowndes recommends taking responsibility for ending. "I'll let you go. I know you're busy." This lets the other person feel released rather than dismissed, ending calls positively. She teaches the smile in your voice. People can hear smiles through phones. Smiling while speaking changes vocal tone subtly but detectably. Answer calls with a genuine smile, and your voice automatically sounds warmer and more welcoming. This transforms first phone impressions completely. The email enthusiasm technique prevents written communication from feeling flat. Add enthusiasm to emails through specific language. Instead of "thanks for the information," write, "Thanks so much for the detailed information. Exactly what I needed." Written communication lacks tonal cues, so verbal enthusiasm is essential. Lowndes introduces the speed timing. Match your communication speed to the other person's. If they send quick, brief emails, respond similarly. If they write detailed messages, reciprocate with substance. Mismatched communication styles create friction even when content is good. She shares the professional digital persona, maintaining consistency across all digital channels. Your email signature, LinkedIn profile, social media presence, and phone manner should all communicate the same professional image. Inconsistency creates confusion and undermines credibility. The action step: add smile and gestures to phone calls this week. Notice how these physical additions change your vocal energy and the responses you receive from people who can't see you but hear the difference. Chapter 8. Long-term relationship building: maintaining connection. The final skill is converting initial connections into lasting relationships. Lowndes reveals that most networking fails not in initial meetings, but in follow-up. Creating relationships requires consistent effort beyond first impressions. The reconnector technique: when following up with someone, reference specific details from your conversation. "I've been thinking about what you said about changing careers. How's the job search going?" Specific references prove you remember them individually, not as generic networking contacts. The tidbitting technique builds relationships through tiny, consistent gestures, email articles relevant to their interests, Congratulate them on professional achievements. Remember birthdays. These small actions maintain connection without requiring major time investment. Consistent tidbits beat occasional grand gestures. Lowndes teaches the friendship frequency. Research shows relationships require consistent interaction. Friendships need contact every 2 to 3 weeks. Professional relationships benefit from touch points every 4 to 6 weeks. Less frequent contact causes relationships to fade, regardless of initial connection quality. She introduces the value add, always bringing value to relationships. When reaching out, don't just say hello. Share something useful. Information, introductions, opportunities. Relationships based on mutual value exchange last. Relationships based purely on taken eventually fail. The strategic generosity technique. Help people without expecting immediate reciprocation. Generous people build reputation as valuable connections, creating networks that eventually provide enormous returns. Transactional people are avoided because interactions feel exhausting and one-sided. Lowndes emphasizes that real relationships require genuine interest. All techniques fail if you fundamentally don't care about people, but if you're genuinely interested and use these techniques, you'll build relationship networks that transform your personal and professional life. The action step. Identify 5 valuable connections to maintain. Schedule monthly touch points, emails, calls, or meetings. Use tidbitting to add value consistently. Within 6 months, these relationships will deepen substantially through small, consistent effort. There you have it. The essential techniques from 92 little tricks that create big success in relationships. Master first impressions through flooding smiles and confident body language. Break the ice naturally without awkward pauses and build genuine connections that leave a lasting impact. If you found these insights helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to help others improve their communication skills too. Thanks for watching. And remember, great relationships start with small, smart actions. See you in the next one.